Welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur channel. Please subscribe so every week you get to hear from amazing guests that share their stories and inspiration and motivation to help them in their journey, and hopefully it will inspire you as well in your transition from employee to entrepreneur. Welcome to this episode. I am actually really excited about you hearing this next speaker because my next guest is from the medical profession. And as we know, medical professionals have to go through years of schooling, unlike even us normal people, where we might just get through an undergrad program, college program. People in the medical profession are in school for years, and they traditionally end up as what we would title as an employee in their chosen field in the medical profession. But what I love about our next guest is that he transitioned into having a part-time side entrepreneurial venture a little accidentally. And so this is such a great story. I've had a chance to speak with Dr. Michael Hutchison, and he is our next guest. And we're going to bring him up to just share a little bit more about this little accidental journey and an incredible product that he has created that truly can help so many people. Dr. Michael Hutchison, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about your story and how even people who have gone to school for many years, who love the profession that they're in and still practice in it, can still actually be an entrepreneur, can have an entrepreneurial side to them and possibly balance both, or just make sure that they're really helping the masses in a completely different way. So I'm excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Anita. It's a great pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. So please just share a little bit about your background, a little bit about your educational path to your medical degree. I know what you do, but I'd love for you to share to the audience what you do.
When I was in high school, I lived in a town that had the number one veterinary school in the country, Ames, Iowa State University, and I wanted to be a small animal doctor for people's pets. And so one day I asked a friend of ours that was in vet school if I could come and watch what he does and just get familiar with being a veterinarian. And so of course, he said, "Yeah, come on with me." And so I went there one morning and we did a pig surgery, and I thought that was really cool. And he says, "Okay, now I got to go do my project. So come with me. We're going into the barn." And so I went in there, and he puts on a glove all the way up to his shoulder and sticks his arm up the back end of a cow. And I said, "Do you have to do that to be a small animal doctor?" And he goes, "Everybody has to do that." And I was just so dejected because I was not going to be doing that for my profession. And my farmer dad, he was a professor at that time, but he grew up on a farm in southern Idaho. And he says, "What's wrong?" And I came home and I was just so bummed out. And I told him, and he had a big belly laugh on that. And he says, "Well, then why don't you become a dentist? Because they just play golf 3 days a week and then practice." And I said, "That sounds good." That's not true, though. That's not true.
True. Oh, it's the
I've
other
never
whole.
practiced. I've never only practiced 3 days a week and golf the rest. But the thing that happened was is that I contacted a dentist in town, and she was great, and I spent a day with her, and I just loved it, and decided right then and there in high school that I was going to be a dentist, and I pursued that. I was a pre-dental student. I went to Loyola University Dental School, which was the first dental school in the United States back in the 1870s. It was great education and just loved it, and never wanted to work for anybody. I just wanted to go out there and have my own practice and do what I wanted to do, and was able to do that. And I got heavily into, as I was telling you, I found a method to treat temporal mandibular joint syndrome, or TMJ, headaches, chronic migraines.
Which I've
So many
suffered with
people
in
have
the
this
past.
problem.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
actually suffered for over a year with it years and years ago, but it was awful. It was a really horrible experience to suffer
yeah, I
through.
mean, it's really debilitating, and there's not really a good treatment or anything like that out there, even still. But I was able to find the way the body worked, and because I was doing that, I just fell into, from the sky, this neuromuscular dentistry and started treating people in a different kind of way and was curing something that the profession and really nobody believed that you could cure. You just manage it. But the body functions in a certain way, and if you let it function that way, you can cure things. And this just led into designing a different mouth appliance for sports. And I started pursuing and started testing it. And that was back in 2000. Here we are 25 years later, and most people still don't know about it, but it's growing because there's just really no answer to certain things that it does, and that is increase strength without medication, without doing anything. You have it already in you, and also reducing the impact of concussions down to almost zero. And that is the key to reducing concussions in this day and age.
That's amazing. So there's a few things I want to touch on as we're going through, because we did talk about you accidentally falling into this space where you got an idea and you're now down this entrepreneurial path beyond just having your own clinic, which in itself is a bit of an entrepreneur, but often when you're in a medical profession or maybe a legal profession or some profession, it doesn't feel like you're an entrepreneur when you just run your own practice. But when you actually have a service or a product that you're going out to. But I want to touch on something else that you talked about early on. I love the idea of the shadowing in a profession. So years ago, years and years ago, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And then I went and learned, took biology and went, oh, so when you said dissect the pig, yeah, we dissected and I realized, oh, I don't like biology. Can't be a profession with the title of a subject you don't like. So then I thought I'll go into law. And I ended up shadowing at a law practice for a while. And again, I didn't enjoy it that much. And so I didn't end up in the legal profession per se as a lawyer or attorney or paralegal, but those experiences were great. And I think that there's some power in being able to shadow in certain things that you want to do. And I think even as adults, we forget how important it is that it is okay to shadow. And it's, I think, what you call coaching and mentorship, and even just working with someone else. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are really happy to have someone shadow them.
I agree, and especially in my profession, it's really an important thing if you are interested in dentistry, because there's a lot of myths out there about dentistry and fear and anxiety, and they're really not, at this day and age, anything to worry about now. And so it helps to go and observe a day. And also what helps is if you can handle it. I had a kid come in, he wanted to be a dentist, and was a family friend. I said, yeah, come on in and you can watch some procedures. And he came in and I gave somebody an injection and he dropped over and fainted. And I had to take care of him, and it's okay. This is not what I expected. And he was super embarrassed, but it changed his mind because he, although this is a reaction called syncope and it's not controlled by your body does it to you. It wouldn't be very good to get into a profession that your body doesn't like. It makes you faint. So he realized that even though it sounded interesting, there was something he couldn't do.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to touch on again. I say this all the time because obviously this channel and what I do is help people transition from employee to entrepreneur. But I'm also the first to say that not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur and not everybody is designed to be an entrepreneur. So we may not physically reject being an entrepreneur the way you might physically reject being a dentist or being a doctor. But I do believe that not everybody needs to transition into entrepreneurship. It's not for the faint of heart. There are a lot of ups and downs, and there is the ability to sometimes straddle both things, which is great, especially if you love your career. If you love being an employee, I think there's something powerful in that. But I do believe that you need to listen to your body. If being an entrepreneur is making you sick or making you overwhelmed and it's just not for you, that is okay as well. And I think sometimes in society, we don't give grace to the fact that we do need people who are employees and love their jobs.
The thing that I think is most important about entrepreneurship is having a no quit mentality.
Right.
If you can't persevere all the downs of doing this, you're just not going to be successful. But if you can overcome the downs and take the positives, you will be successful. If you never give up, you will be successful in the end. But I'm telling you, especially with what I did, solving the concussion problem and performance in athletics and even in life, there's way more people saying you can't do it and won't help you and tell you that your snake oil is not worth anything, and a lot of experts that aren't experts at all. And if you listen to them, you will not be successful. And I guess I was blessed when I was in college, and I didn't have straight A's, but I had pretty good grades. But I got called into the Science and Humanities Dean's office, and he told me I should look at a different profession because I'll never get accepted into dental school.
Yikes.
And I told him, because this is the way I am, don't you tell me I can't do anything.
Right.
And I just looked at him and said, I know you're a dean, but I really believe that you don't know what you're talking about. And thank you for giving me the incentive to prove it. And when I got accepted to the 3 dental schools that I applied to, I sent him my acceptance letter and I told him, don't ever do this to anybody else, because there are people who will trust and believe what you say and give up on their dream because of you. And that is the greatest tragic tragedy there is, for you to talk about something you don't know what you're talking about and discourage somebody who has a dream.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur, you've got to take your lumps, and there are a lot of them, because people want to tell you what they think, and most of the time they don't know what they're really talking about. It's just their opinion, and so you got to overcome that. But if you do, you're going to be successful. I think there's a book out that explored all the successful people, and the one common denominator is that they practice for 10,000 hours.
Yes.
The
Yes.
Beagles, Bill Gates, they
Correct.
just practiced and practiced so
Yeah.
much and were tenacious that they eventually became successful.
Correct. Malcolm Gladwell. That's an excellent book. Yes, absolutely. So you did answer one of my questions around who or what's been most influential in your life. And I think I might come back to that question again, because that was such a pivotal moment of someone saying something you and then you defying that odds. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of people who would have taken it to heart, especially if you respect that person and you look up to them and you take it to heart, and it can derail your trajectory. So I'm going to come back to that in this project, but let me ask you a question. Can you go through a little bit about what was that moment, or what was the thing that was the catalyst of you starting this project? Can you pinpoint something that you went, I have to do this. I have to create this product?
There were a couple of things. The very first thing was I would take these TMJ patients and I would get them out of pain, cure their problem, which is absolutely taught. It was unheard of, impossible. You couldn't do it. And I did. I was able to do that with a different technique. And so I knew that this is how the body worked. And then the people would tell me that they had energy and they felt they were stronger. I've had women who would say, I have these Christmas ornaments in my basement and I can't carry them up there anymore, but now I can. What's that all about? And I thought, wow, increased strength by putting your jaw in your physiologic jaw position. That's huge. If I could do that for athletes, I'd be a genius. And just about that time, we had a celebrity, we call him a celebrity. He was the police chief and fire chief in Traverse City, Michigan. And he got on the USA powerlifting team. He was 65 years old, and that was the category he was in. And he won a national championship with a lift of 398 pounds, most he'd ever lifted. And they wrote an article about him in the newspaper. And he said, I'm going to go to Prague and represent the United States, and I want to break the world record, which is 435 pounds. I've never lifted that in my life, but that's my goal. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I looked him up in the phone book right then and there, and I called him and I said, Granted, out of faith on my part, because I had no evidence whatsoever. I
Yeah.
just had these people that I increased their strength. I said, I can get you your world record tonight, because he was smiling in the picture they put him in, and I could tell his teeth were really messed up. And so I called him, and he's okay. And I told him what I wanted to do, and he goes, okay, I'll try it. And he came over. I made him a quick mouth appliance, and I said, call me after your workout.
Yeah.
And when he was done, he left me a message I couldn't understand. And when I called him up, he started off on me again. I go, slow down. He goes, I got up to 455 and I know I could do more, but I thought I was going to get hurt. So I stopped, but I know I could do more. And I said, well, I told you could do about 480. And so I want your lifting logs for the next 6 weeks before you go to Prague, because I need some data and I want to make sure that this is a proven technique. So he got up to 525. He went to Prague. He broke the world record at 455, and that record stood for 10 years, incidentally. And at that point in time, I knew that I had found a unknown body mechanism that if we just harnessed it, we would increase our performance by, I thought at the time, 25%. The second thing was there were a few other people down the line, athletes, professional athletes, that all reported the same thing. So Wayne State University's biomedical engineering department heard of what I was doing and asked me to if they could test it at no charge to me. They just wanted to test it.
Yeah.
They showed a 17% increase in strength with legs and arms and full body with a physiologic jaw position, and they presented it internationally in Ireland as a new discovery. And those two things were the pinnacle of what brought this to be. And ever since then, we've just continued to build on that. And as we did, we learned that the concussion rate was drastically cut down by wearing this appliance. And it turned out to be the missing link to concussion reduction.
Amazing. So is it designed only for athletes or is it designed for everyday use?
It's designed for everyone. I got a guy who's got 2 acres of grass, and he had to do it in 2 days because he got too tired. But now he says, I wear this appliance, I can mow the whole thing. I'm good. So
Wow. While so he's mowing wearing the appliance.
wearing the appliance.
Can you show us what the appliance looks like? Do you?
Let's see. I don't actually, I do have a little. So
Okay.
it goes on the lower teeth. This happens to be for a double pack that you can buy, where you can buy two of them in one package. But you can see it's turned upside down because it goes on your lower teeth, not your upper teeth.
Ah,
And that is because the lower jaw is the part of your skull that moves in an infinite number of directions, and that determines your neurology and physiology of your bite mechanism. And so that can disrupt nerve information, or it can let the nerve information go at 100%. So it must be on the lower teeth. And because of that, it opens your airway so you get more oxygen, which is a performance enhancing thing also. You can speak with it because it's underneath your tongue. These are all things that are important. And
yeah.
the things that the way mouth guards are today are what people hate, is they can't talk, they can't breathe, and they don't seem to help in reducing concussions. There's the latest study is over 10,000 a day in the United States.
That's
And it's been that way
amazing.
for 60 years.
We'll have your links in the show notes for sure to be able to really help more people. We want to be able to get this out. This is crazy. So let's just go back a little bit to your story because it's obviously having a product and going down and having a patent, and there's like a whole journey when you want to create something. But talk about the times where you were like, I'm going to give up. This just doesn't, it's too hard. It's going to make up. Did you have those moments and what got you through it when you were feeling like that?
I can think of a case where I met a former Major League Baseball player who was a AAA coach for Seattle, and he lived up here, and he liked to ride his bike, mountain bike, and I made him this appliance, and he just absolutely loved it. And he said, I'm going to bring you down to the training camp, and I want you to explain it to the Mariners. And so I flew down there. on my own dime. I took off work and I went down there, and he didn't do it right. He didn't tell anybody, and he just dropped me off in the team doctor's office, who was an orthopedic surgeon and had absolutely no idea about what I was doing. And he was very upset with Coach Roan, and he just dropped me off there and shut the door and walked away. And the guy, he didn't really want to talk to me, and he just said it was all placebo, and he wanted my data, and I didn't really have any data. And I left there really discouraged because I knew in my heart that it was true, but this is a person who didn't care about it at all. And so but those kind of things, the time I spent on the airplane back, it turned me a different direction, and I learned that I had to have concrete data, and I went on to do that. So that was one time where I thought, I don't know, this might be too insurmountable. And then I was reading in a history book that is about Galileo, which is a great book, by the way. And Galileo, he was teaching in the university that the Earth orbited around the sun, and the Pope called him in and said, "This is heresy, and if you don't stop teaching that, I'm going to put you in jail."
That story.
Galileo's like, "I'm sorry, but that's what it does." And sure enough, Galileo died in jail because he knew what was true, and even though the expert of the times, the Pope, said otherwise, it was just not true. And that gave me inspiration that no matter who says it didn't work, they just didn't know, or they had some other alternative reason that they didn't want me to be successful. And so it gave me the opportunity to work past that. But even so, all the things that I did to try to promote this, and it just wasn't going, and I was spending more of my money and I wasn't making any return on it. There were a lot of times when I thought maybe this is kind of like Galileo. This is not the time to change everybody's ingrained tradition, like trying to change somebody's religion. That's like next to impossible. I felt that way sometimes. But then I had to just realize that no, Alexander Fleming brought about penicillin. Steve Jobs, I don't go to the phone and grab my wall phone anymore.
Correct.
And this is a 75-year-old mouth guard that we're dealing with that does nothing but keep our teeth from fracturing. There's got to be a better way, and I got it, and I'm going to keep going, and eventually it will take over and become the mouth guard of this day and age.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many nuggets out of what you said. One is just complete and utter faith in yourself. Even when no one else has it, it is so hard to keep that level of faith in yourself and knowledge and belief. So kudos to you. And, that's an absolute nugget. If you don't believe it and have 180% faith in yourself, no one else is going to. So that was great. And I also love the notion. I'm a really big believer. I read a lot. I'm so into personal development. I'm so into reading other people's stories and their mistakes. I'm a huge believer in coaches and mentors who have already done the mistakes. But I love what you said about how just hearing other people in history, or even recent history, because history is even yesterday, but in history, just having done something that you wanted to do. I think it is why it's so important to read books and listen to the autobiographies and to hear other people, because the perseverance and the grit and the tenacity is really what, if we look around, somebody invented everything that we're looking at. Someone's inventing this platform that we're on right now. Obviously, the internet, computers, technology, but even just the basics, like even a cup that we use, a pen that we use, like everything we just take for granted now are household items, but someone believed that there was a better way. And I think you've just done that. You've just believed there was a better way.
I guess I came from an era where Dick Tracy had a watch that he talked on.
Yes.
And now I have a Apple Watch that I answer my phone on.
Exactly.
It's all over the world. If somebody calls me from Italy, I can talk to them on my watch.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I'm so aging myself, but one of my favorite shows when I was a kid was The Jetsons. And it was this cartoon, futuristic. I'm sure you could still Google and find episodes, but it was this futuristic notion. And probably the only thing in The Jetsons that I have yet to see or experience is the flying car. Otherwise, we do have microwaves now that instantaneously make our food. We've got Zoom. We have, like, I remember the mother was doing a fitness class on Zoom on video. And we did that. We've all done that through the pandemic. We've done so many of the things that this show decades ago projected that weren't even in the realm of possibility.
Absolutely. And even we do have flying cars, not like those yet, but
Yes.
we got these drones that I've seen. People have a little car that they can take
Yeah.
off and fly.
Take packages. There's drones that do drop off packages. So they're not quite at the capability of taking a human to another place, but they sure can take a package
Absolutely.
to another place, which is
And I think it's just a
crazy.
matter of conceiving it. I think we have to be ready or it won't come about. And
Yeah.
so to say that nothing can be invented or improved is just because we can't imagine it.
Absolutely.
But
If you
again,
look
it
back
takes so much effort. Takes
so
I
much
don't
effort.
want to discourage people, but you got to be willing to, if you want to be a champion, you got to be willing to be there more than everybody else. The talent is there, but it's more hard work. 10,000 hours of practice, you'll be a champion.
Absolutely. So leads right into my question, which is if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, what would you have said to yourself? I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just before you were in this journey, what piece of advice did you wish that you had heard or you could give yourself now in hindsight?
Read more.
Read more. Okay.
When I was a kid, I didn't read that much. I didn't think I was one of those kids who things came easy a lot, and I only read the assignments if I had to.
Yes.
And it's in the profession I went into, you had to read a lot and learned, and also plow through math because I hated math.
Right.
In ninth grade, I got a D plus in geometry, and my dad was so mad at me, and I just didn't get along with the teacher, and I just didn't understand, and I just hated it. And my dad said, she only gave you a D plus because she didn't want to see you again and give you an F. And I go, how did you know? Because she asked me what I was going to do about my grade, and I said, I'm doing the best I can, and if you give me an F, I'm going to take you again. And she gave me a D plus because I guess she didn't want to see me again.
Right.
But another thing too is that persevere, because I don't think at junior in high school or sophomore, I didn't reach my full maturity then. And it was after I went to Italy and lived there for 2 years, served a mission for my church, matured a lot. And when I came back and went to college, I did great in college. And I think part of it was I had the desire, and I knew that I had what I had to do, and it became enjoyable to me. But if I would have been a better avid reader, I think I would have even excelled even more. And read a lot.
That's
It
amazing.
helps you with your language. It helps you with learning other things. So yeah, I would do that over again as well. And I guess now sometimes I'd like to be a little more patient. I got a lot of patience, but sometimes things get a little overtaxing. Let's go. We've got this thing. Let's go. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, and I think that's such an important characteristics of entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs that I have talked with, interviewed with, have a degree of impatience, and myself included. And it's I've got a great idea. I want it to go. Why is it not working? Or why is it not going fast enough? Or it needs to be there already. And it's the patience and experiencing the journey, enjoying the journey of it, not just the end destination. And when we don't enjoy the journey, the goalpost keeps moving as well. But it just makes the impatience not allow us to live in the now.
Just realize that it's like when you're learning to ride a bike, you don't just get on it and take off. It takes patience to get the muscle memory and get things working right. And pretty soon, it's something that you never forget how to do. But you
Yeah.
got to have the patience and perseverance to accomplish what you set out to do. And I think that's really an important thing for any entrepreneur. And if you have a really good idea and you know how to do it better than somebody else, go for it.
Right.
And never give up.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What do you think is something that people misunderstand about what you're doing? What is something that ends up that you find that you're butting your head on a lot around what you've created?
The best example I can give is I met with a trainer and he said, I'm going to tell you right now that mouth guards don't reduce concussions. And I said, you're absolutely right. And you're absolutely wrong.
Hmm.
The mouth guard that you have in your brain and you familiar with and you conceive do not help concussion reduction, and they actually make concussions worse. That's the mouth guard you're talking about. The one I'm talking about is absolutely different from that. And it's based on your body physiology. And if you put your jaw in that position, it absolutely does. And it's been proven to do. And so it's just a matter of method and mechanism that makes all the difference in the world.
And we talked about this before we came online, which is you're fighting an industry of and a mindset that has been around for decades and decades. I don't even know when the original mouth guard or mouth protection even got invented, but it was probably over 50, 60 years ago, if I'm correct. And people have just done things the same way. And I think it's so apropos of where we are in the world as well. People have done things the same way and said, I don't want to do it. I remember even my parents going, I am not going to go to dial tone phones, let alone to cell phones. Because in our era of the last like 20, 30 years, the technology's changed. And now we're entering the world of AI where we're going to be doing things even more differently. So, what do you feel is the way of changing people's mindset? What would you say is the most important part of that?
I think really the proof is in the pudding. Part of that, it actually works right away because this is how the body works. And so you can put your jaw in that position, you can go right over to the bench press and you can increase your maximum 17% and lift it more than one time. So that really is important. But also just seeing what happens to other people who have used it. I've had lots of teams and use it. I have a high school team in Texas that's worn this technology for 10 years without one concussion in 10 years.
Amazing.
How do you deny that? This is the way the body works. And so you can live in the past of what you think is true, but truth is truth. And whether you think it's true or not, it doesn't change whether it is or not. That's really a big part of trying to change historical tradition of thinking that the earth goes around the sun.
Exactly.
It's up till that point for thousands of years they thought the sun was the real deal, and it is. It has its function, but it's not true that the sun goes around the earth. That is not true, no matter what you believe.
Yes.
It's
Or
not true.
the earth is flat. So fair enough.
The earth is flat, right?
Correct.
It is not.
It is not. Okay, as we close out, I'm going to ask you one last question. I thank you. One of the goals in this is for everyone to click on the link, get it. You don't have to be an athlete in order to use the guard. If you are just even gardening or mowing your lawn, I heard you share me a story about somebody increasing their energy levels. So Please go buy this, spread the word to everyone. So that's my last question to you. How do you define success? How do you know that you're a success? What does that mean for you? And how can we all help you achieve that?
Not only reaching the top of the mountain and not giving up, but taking people along with you and making their life better. For what I'm doing, if I can reduce concussions, there's 10,000 that are going to happen today and yesterday and tomorrow. And if I can take that down to 100, I have changed the life for the better of every kid, athlete, every mom and dad, every coach. For the better, I can keep their life from being disrupted by what a concussion does to your brain permanently. That to me is the most important thing. I want everybody to have it because it changes their life and keeps them safe, not because it's going to be a big, huge billion-dollar business. That comes by just doing the good for people, and that comes along because of what you did. And so to me, being a champion is being able to change people's life for the better.
That's amazing. And so, everyone, please share this episode with an athlete that you know, a coach that you know, teacher that you know, a parent that you know, anybody that you know that has had a concussion. I don't think there's anyone on like anywhere across the planet, but definitely not in North America, that does not know someone who has suffered from a concussion. I don't think there's one person out there that doesn't have at least one friend or anything that you can't say, oh, I know they had a concussion. There's a way to help them. There's a way to help other people. Spread this, share this, subscribe to this channel, because you're going to hear about so many more amazing entrepreneurs who are changing people's lives.
You can get the information at neuroguardplus.com. And you can buy one there. So neuroguardplus.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Michael Hutchison, for being here. So appreciate your time and sharing this. And we are going to help a lot of people, just as you have already been doing for so long. We together and all of our audience are going to help spread the word.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully you were inspired just as I was by our amazing guest. Please subscribe, because every week we will be interviewing someone else who's made that transition from employee to entrepreneur. In the comments, please share the one nugget that you heard that will change your business as well.